Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that takes your source materials, could be articles, big reports, even dense legal manuals, and we try to pull out the really key insights for you.
Yeah, the goal is to make it digestible,
Yeah.
maybe even a little fun.
Exactly. And today is part of a bigger educational series we're doing on the Manual of Patent Examining Procedure, the MPEP.
Yes, the MPP, essential reading if you're in the patent world.
Definitely. So if you're studying for the patent bar, maybe you're already a practitioner or, just super curious about how patents work, this series is for you. We're breaking down key sections.
Mm.
And today's specific focus, we are zeroing in on MPP Chapter 1800. That's the one all about the Patent Cooperation Treaty, or PCT.
A big one, international filings.
Right. And within Chapter 1800, we're getting really specific. We're looking at MPP Section 1851. The title is pretty straightforward, Identification of Patent Documents. So our mission, if you will, is to understand how patent examiners cite these documents in PCT reports, things like international search reports. And, maybe more importantly, why this very specific way of identifying them is so crucial.
And just to set the stage, on sources we're pulling directly from the MPP itself for this. This is the authoritative guidance examiners follow.
The rulebook itself.
Exactly. And it's important to know this guidance in Section 51, it isn't just something the USPTO made up. It actually comes from international requirements. WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, sets these out.
WIPO.
Okay. Specifically, their administrative instructions, Sections 503 and 611, and also something called WIPO Standard ST.14. So it's all tied into global agreements.
Got it. So it's internationally grounded. But okay, let's jump in. Why does something that sounds maybe a bit administrative, like identifying a document, need its own MPP section and these international standards? What's the big deal?
Well, it really gets to the core of how the international system functions. Think about it. The PCT system involves patent documents from, well, pretty much everywhere. Offices all over the world.
Right, dozens, hundreds maybe.
Exactly. Now imagine if every single country, or maybe even every examiner, just cited documents however they felt like, different formats, different codes, or no codes.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare. Trying to figure out what document they even mean.
Precisely. It would be chaos.
Yeah.
Complete chaos. So this uniformity in citation that Section 1851 requires for PCT reports, it's absolutely vital for clarity, for accuracy, and just for making sure everything is compatible internationally.
So everyone's speaking the same citation language, basically.
Spot on. When an examiner here in the U.S. cites, say, a Japanese patent document in an international search report, someone looking at that report in, I don't know, Germany or Korea needs to know instantly and reliably exactly which document is being talked about.
Right.
These standards provide that common language.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's the foundation for actually using these reports across borders. So what are the absolute must-have pieces of information that Section 1851 demands for citing these documents?
Right, so Section 1851 lays out the mandatory basics. For every single reference cited in these PCT reports, you need two key things right up front.
Okay, what are they?
First, the two-letter country code for the authority that issued the document. U.S. for the United States, JP for Japan, EP for the European Patent Office, GB for Great Britain, and so on.
And there's a standard list for those?
Yep. WIPO Standard ST.3. It's a comprehensive list covering countries and organizations to ensure everyone uses the same codes. Global consistency.
Okay, two-letter country code. What's the second piece?
The second mandatory piece is the standard kind code. This is usually a letter, sometimes maybe a letter followed by a number like A1 or B2. And this code tells you, at a glance, the type or kind of patent document you're looking at.
The type. What does that mean exactly? Like granted versus application?
Exactly that. The kind code gives you crucial context. Is this reference a fully granted patent that gives somebody rights? Or is it maybe a published application that hasn't been granted yet? A different status, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's something else, like a reissued patent or a reexamination certificate that changes an existing patent. These codes classify the document. Tells you if it's a U.S. patent from '95 or a U.S. application published in 2005. Big difference.
I see. So it's like a quick classification tag. That seems really useful. Now, the sources you mentioned give some specific U.S. examples, and they seem to hinge on a date. Can you walk us through those?
Yes, the MPP provides very clear examples for U.S. documents, and you're right, there's a key date, January 2, 2001. This date is important because it relates to some big changes in U.S. patent law and how documents were published around that time.
Okay, so what's the rule?
So for U.S. patents, actual granted patents that were published before January 2, 2001, the kind code is just A, simple A.
Got it. Before 2001.
But for U.S. patents published on or after that date, January 2001, the kind code switches to B.
Okay, A before, B after. Seems straightforward for patents.
It is, but here's where you need to pay attention. U.S. patent application publications, these are the ones that started getting published 18 months after filing, which became standard practice around that same time. Well, they first started being issued on March 15, 2001.
Okay.
And for these U.S. application publications, the kind code is A.
Wait a second. So a U.S. patent before 2001 is A,
Correct.
and a U.S. application publication after 2001 is also A,
That's right.
but the U.S. patent after 2001 is B. That feels a little confusing. How do you tell the pre-2001 patent A from the post-2001 application A?
That's a really good catch. And yeah, it can seem tricky at first glance just looking at the letter.
Yeah.
But the key is the other information in the citation, especially the document number. U.S. patents have one kind of number series. U.S. application publications have a completely different number series that usually starts with the year, like 20XX, followed by the publication number.
Ah, okay. So the number format itself is different.
Exactly. So even though the kind code letter might be A in both cases, the document number structure and, of course, the publication date make it absolutely clear whether you're looking at an old patent or a newer published application. The kind code A just signifies first publication in a sense, whether it was a patent itself back then or the application now.
Okay, that clarifies it. Context is everything. What about other U.S. document types mentioned?
The sources also mention U.S. reexamination certificates. These get either a B or a C kind code, again, depending on whether they were published before or after that same January 2001 date.
B or C for re-exams. Got it.
And one more important one, non-patent literature. Think journal articles, technical papers, websites, anything cited that isn't actually a patent document.
Right. Prior art can be anything.
Precisely. All non-patent literature, or NPL, gets identified with the letter code N.
N for non-patent. Makes sense.
The section also gives a quick nod to WIPO standard ST.16. This is like a bigger overarching classification system for patent docs worldwide using broad letter groups A through H. The specific codes like A, B, C, N, that's section 8A51, tells examiners to use fit within that broader ST.16 framework.
So ST.16 is a big picture. Section 851 gives the specific implementation rules for PCT reports.
You got it. And one last little detail they mention about kind codes sometimes, especially on documents from places like Germany or Japan, you might see numerical designations with the letter like A1 or B2, things like that.
Yeah, I think I've seen those.
Right. The instruction in Section 1851 is clear. Examiners should only include those numerical parts if they actually appear on the face of the cited document. Don't add an A1 if the document just says A.
Okay, stick with what the document itself shows. Good rule. So we have the country code, the kind code. How does it all come together in the actual citation format that an examiner writes in a report? What's the standard layout?
Section 1851 gives a pretty standard structure designed for that clarity and consistency we talked about. It generally goes in this order.
Okay.
First, the two-letter office code US, JP, EP, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Then the document number itself.
Right.
After that, the kind code, the A, B, N, or maybe an A1 or B2 if it's on the document.
Yeah, in code, okay.
Then comes the name of the applicant or the patentee. And the examples in the MPEP show this specifically. The name should be in all capital letters.
All caps. Interesting detail.
Yeah?
Probably for indexing.
Almost certainly. Helps with automated searching and standardization. After the name in caps, you get the date of publication.
Publication date. Makes sense.
And finally, if the examiner isn't citing the whole document, but just a specific part that's relevant prior art, they'll point you right to it. That could be specific paragraphs or column and line numbers or maybe figure 3, for example.
Pinpointing the key section. Very helpful.
Definitely saves time.
That structure seems logical. But, hearing the actual examples from the sources always makes it click. Can you read those out?
Absolutely. Seeing the finished product helps. Here are the 2 specific examples provided right in the text of Section 1851.
Okay.
First one, U.S. 5,635,683A, MC Germont, RMAL, 03, June 1997, column 7, lines 21 to 40.
Okay, I see it. U.S. number A, because it's pre-2001 patent. Name in caps dot date. And the specific lines. Checks all the boxes.
Exactly. And the second example they give is JP 10-105775A, NCR International INC, 24 April 1998, paragraphs 26 to 30.
Right. JP for Japan, that different number format, still an A kind code. Applicant name in caps, date, and this time citing specific paragraphs. Perfect illustration.
Yep. Shows the standard format in action for different countries and citation needs.
Breaking it down like that really solidifies it, takes it from just being a rule to something you can actually visualize on a report.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we've gone through the what and the how of Sections 1851 pretty thoroughly. Let's circle back to the why it matters for, for you listening. If you're knee-deep in patent bar study materials, or maybe you deal with these search reports every day, why is nailing down the citation stuff so important?
Well, it's fundamental, really. When you get that international search report or maybe a written opinion back from the examiner during the TCT process, understanding these codes and the standard format is, like step 0, it's how you figure out what prior art they're actually citing against your claims.
So if you misinterpret it,
Big problems. If you can't correctly identify the document, maybe you confuse an application publication A with an old patent A because you forgot about the numbering, or you misread the country code, you could waste a ton of time. You might pull the wrong reference entirely, or just completely misunderstand why the examiner cited it.
yeah, I can see that leading you down the wrong path fast.
For sure. And for folks studying for the patent bar, this stuff is tested because it's considered a core competency. You have to be able to read these reports accurately. For practitioners, it's just daily bread and butter, essential for efficiently searching prior art, analyzing it correctly, and writing effective responses back to the patent office. It stops you from chasing phantoms in the patent databases.
So less about just following a rule, more about having the key to unlock what the examiner is actually saying. It's the infrastructure that makes the communication work.
That's a great way to put it. The whole point, like the section emphasizes, is that uniformity. Making sure that any reference cited in any PCT report can be found, understood, and checked by anyone, anywhere in the world, no matter who wrote the report. It really does underpin the whole international prior art search system.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into MPP Section 1851. We've covered the importance of those country codes, the nuances of kind codes, especially the U.S. examples, and the standard format for citing patent documents in PCT reports.
Yeah, it's one of those areas where the details might seem small initially, but they really are foundational for making the whole international patent system function smoothly and reliably. Understanding them is key.
And before we sign off, we definitely want to give a special thank you to Mike Shepard. He's the creative director who organized this entire MPEP audio series and helped make it happen.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. And now we do have a necessary disclaimer to read.
Go ahead.
Okay. This summary of the MPEP was generated using AI tools, including ChatGPT and NotebookLM, and it may contain errors or omissions. It is provided for general educational and informational purposes only. It is not legal advice, and it's not a substitute for formal instruction. For authoritative guidance, please always consult the official MPEP itself, talk to a qualified instructor, or seek advice from a registered patent practitioner.
All right. And as we wrap up, here's a little something for you to think about. We live in a world absolutely drowning in information, right? Billions of documents, countless languages. How does something that seems so simple, so maybe even mundane, like standardizing a citation format as laid out in Section 1851, actually become this incredibly powerful tool? How does it fundamentally enable global innovation and provide that crucial legal certainty everyone relies on?
Tell them to chew on.
Definitely. We hope this dive was useful for you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.
And we look forward to having you back for our next deep dive.